Good, everybody. It's your boy Wavy. Stay Wavy TV. Subscribe. Click that thumbs up button. Make sure y'all leave a comment after the video. I want to talk about the Los Angeles Clippers being eliminated from the NBA playoffs by the Denver Nuggets. Shout out to Jamal Murray. Shout out to Jokic, the Joker. Shout out to the whole team, man. Paul Millsap, because these guys were down 3-1, and I was thinking what everybody else was thinking. Before this season even started, when we heard that Paul George was going to the Los Angeles Clippers, who gave the Golden State Warriors of last year a hell of a playoff series. They played very well last year when nobody even really counted them in to make any type of impact. And when we heard that they was getting Paul George this year, we all said, yup, it's going to be Lakers versus the Clippers in the NBA Finals. On top of that, with Kawhi Leonard, we all thought that Kawhi Leonard was either going to go to the Los Angeles Lakers or he was going to return to the Raptors. There was a lot of rumors. A lot of analysts were saying it's pretty much guaranteed that Kawhi Leonard was going to go to the Lakers. Everybody was saying that. So when we heard that Kawhi was going to the Clippers and bringing Paul George, everybody looked at that as Kawhi saying, fuck joining LeBron. I'm trying to beat LeBron. Not only that, I'm trying to beat him in his own home team arena. Because we all know that the Lakers and the Clippers share the Staples Center in Los Angeles, right? So with that being said, I'm shocked, okay? I actually picked the Clippers to win it all this year. I picked the Clippers to beat the Lakers. And even right now, while I'm making this video a day later, I still can't fucking believe that the Denver Nuggets came back from being down 3-1 and beat the Clippers in 7 games. Not only did they beat them, they fucking embarrassed them. That last 5 minutes of the game was horrible. I mean, you had George Paul, Pandemic P, shooting corner threes that's hitting off the side of the backboard. Kawhi Leonard had a bad game. He only had 2 points, I believe, in the third quarter. Paul George finished the game with 10 points. Surprisingly, Patrick Beverley had a great game. Patrick Beverley had a wonderful game. Montrezl Harrell did what he usually does, brings a lot of energy to the game, gets to the free throw line. This is just a big disappointment. And, the title of this video is the Los Angeles Clippers have to fire Doc Rivers if they want to win a championship. I'm going to explain why. This was the perfect year for the Clippers to win it all, to get to the finals for the first time. Not even the finals, the conference finals for the first time in the franchise history, right? And the reason why Doc Rivers has to be fired is because, number one, this is the third time in Doc Rivers' career as being a head coach in the NBA that he let his team lose when they were up 3-1. This is the third time. He's the only coach in history to do some shit like this, right? You have a guy that just won the Finals MVP last year, won the championship at Toronto. He beat LeBron before when he was on the Spurs, when nobody even knew who he was. He locked LeBron down to the point where whenever this guy would come in the game, LeBron would get pissed. Like, fuck, he's back in the game to lock me down. We're talking about Kawhi Leonard, right? We're talking about arguably, if not the best player in the NBA, most definitely top 3. And a lot would argue and say that he's one of the greatest defenders in the NBA, which he did not show this year, unfortunately. Right? Now, this was the perfect year because when you think about the Western Conference, it's stacked, right? And a lot of people are forgetting that a lot of teams got a pass this year because Klay Thompson, the greatest three-point shooter in the NBA, and also Steph Curry, was injured this year, right? A lot of people forget Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, and Draymond Green have the greatest regular season record of all time. These guys never needed Kevin Durant. They would have won a ring with or without him, okay? The NBA, specifically the Western Conference, got a pass because these guys did not play together this year. So if the Clippers couldn't beat the goddamn Denver Nuggets when they were up 3-1, what the fuck do you niggas think is gonna happen when Klay Thompson and Steph Curry comes back healthy next year? On top of that, they got Andrew Wiggins, who they're most likely gonna trade. They're most definitely gonna try to get Giannis. The franchise already came out and said that. We all know Giannis, he unfollowed everybody on the Bucks on Instagram. So they're most definitely gonna go after Giannis. You know what I'm saying? When that team comes back next year, the West is gonna be stacked. It's already stacked. It's already stacked. On top of that, you're gonna have KD and Kyrie back healthy. The NBA is gonna be even better than it was this year. Okay? So if Doc Rivers couldn't take this team to the conference finals when they was up 3-1, and this has happened 3 times while he was coach, and you have Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, you have arguably the best bench in the NBA. You got Lou Williams, who's a former 6th Man of the Year. You got Montrezl Harrell, 6th Man of the Year this year. You got Zubac. You got all of these players, right? Because let's be honest, when it comes to an all-around roster, the Clippers are more stacked than the Los Angeles Lakers. Okay? The Los Angeles Lakers, their bench is suspect. The Clippers bench, up until the point where they got in the bubble, was arguably the best bench in the NBA. Best defensive team in the NBA. If you can't get the job done this year, you can't get it done next year unless you make a major change. That change could possibly be a trade. Maybe you trade Paul George, or you have to fire the coach. And I honestly believe that even though Paul George looked like total doodle juice in the playoffs this year, like he always does, right? Besides when he went up against the Heat when he was on the Pacers, but that was before Paul George tore his ACL when he had that major injury. He's still a great player, you know, still an all-star type player, but I believe that Paul George is a star, not a superstar. Kawhi Leonard is a superstar. After this season, we have to stop calling George Paul matter of fact, don't call him Paul George, call him George Paul, or call him Pandemic P. He is not a superstar. Okay? He's not a superstar. He's not. He's not good in the playoffs. He bounces from team to team, you know, bounces from dick to dick. It didn't work out with Westbrook, hopped off Westbrook's dick and hopped on Kawhi Leonard's dick. It's not working with Kawhi Leonard. Okay? Whose dick is he going to hop on next year? Who knows? He's probably going to go to the Bucks. Who knows? But Paul George has proved that he is not a superstar. But I believe that you do not have to trade Paul George for the Clippers to win a championship, because whether he's a superstar or not, he's good enough to be the second option, right? Paul George is a scorer. See, the problem with Paul George is Paul George can't put the team on his back when he's playing with a guy like Kawhi Leonard or Russell Westbrook. It's only going to work if he's on a lower class team like the Indiana Pacers or the Orlando Magic, you know, or the Pelicans. He has to be on a team where he's undeniably the best player on the team, because he's proved already that it only worked in Indiana. Like, let's be honest, since Indiana, Paul George, he hasn't been playing like a superstar. So what you have to do is you have to get a coach that can make sure that these guys don't get too comfortable, because one of the biggest problems with the Clippers is they got too cocky. They were talking too much shit. They went out of their way to disrespect Damian Lillard when they beat the Trailblazers before the playoffs started. You know, they were too cocky, and I really didn't like how they were acting against the Dallas Mavericks, who beat them 2 times, Because this was a team that, number one, Porzingis was injured. I believe if Porzingis was healthy and Luka was healthy, because Luka ended up being injured too, this team could have possibly beaten the Clippers in 6 or 7 games. Facts. You had, what's the guy's name? Markieff Morris was trying to bully Luka, purposefully stepping on his ankle and getting in his face and trying to fight Luka because he feels like Luka's soft because Luka complains a lot. You know, you had this Clippers team acting like they were the goddamn bad boy Pistons when they haven't won shit. Right? Before the season even started, you guys seen when the Clippers was at some type of like game and players from the Lakers was there and they walked up to the Lakers like, yeah, we're going to see y'all niggas in the conference finals. You know, everybody thought this was guaranteed with the Lakers and Clippers. LA versus LA. Kawhi versus LeBron. You know, everybody looked at it like this was guaranteed. And what happened was you had a team that got too cocky, too arrogant, and they got their bitch ass humbled. And the main person that you have to blame is the coach. It's the coach's job to keep these players in check and let them know, yo, there's no need to act like this. We haven't even won yet. At least wait till y'all get to the conference finals to act like that. Because karma's a motherfucker. Okay? I personally feel like this happened because of the situation. If you guys notice, right? When the situation happened with the Trailblazers where Patrick Beverly and Paul George was making fun of Damian Lillard because he missed a free throw, because we all know last year Damian Lillard hit a nasty 3 from like the fucking NBA logo in Paul George's face and eliminated OKC last year, right? So if you guys notice, when Paul George decided to, you know, make fun of Lillard for that, and he said something on Instagram in the comment section, Damian Lillard's sister called out Paul George for, you know, getting a former stripper pregnant and marrying a bitch, right? If you guys notice, ever since that happened, Paul George started playing horrible. Like really look at it. Go do the timeline. Go look it up. Once Damian Lillard's sister came out publicly on social media and called out Paul George for wifing a former stripper and getting her pregnant and marrying her, Paul George immediately started playing horrible, which let me know that bothered him, that impacted him. He was embarrassed because this happened in front of the world, to the point where Damian Lillard had to publicly come out and apologize to Paul George and say, hey, look, man, that's my sister. I'm sorry. She went too personal. This is basketball. Right after that situation, Paul George started playing like shit. You guys seen what happened against the Dallas Mavericks? Paul George wasn't even averaging 5 or 6 points a game. He just was on the court just running around, playing defense, not even trying to, just missing, not even trying to shoot at times. To the point where this guy came out after he finally had a good game and was saying that he was depressed and he was thinking about going home and he couldn't handle the pressure and he didn't like being away from his family. But before all of that happened with you and Damian Lillard, you were playing great basketball, my nigga. Paul George is mentally weak, okay? And when you have a player like that, he's not going to be consistent. He's going to be on and off. So what has to happen is they have to get a coach that makes sure that these guys on the Clippers have their egos in check. They don't get too hype. You know what I'm saying? And they get the fucking job done. That's what has to happen. I think what they should do is they should fire Doc Rivers and either let Tyronn Lue or Sam Cassell be the coach of the Clippers. I personally feel like Tyronn Lue, because he already won a championship with LeBron James on the Cavaliers. He knows how LeBron plays. He knows how LeBron is. If he really wanted to, he can get in LeBron's head because he coached him. He won a chip with him, right? make Tyronn Lue the head coach. You make Sam Cassell the assistant coach. And you can still have Doc Rivers associated with the organization because Doc Rivers, at the end of the day, Doc Rivers is a great coach. But I personally feel like he's not the coach for this team. I think he's better off being coach of the Philadelphia 76ers, get a fresh start. Because the Clippers, they have to fire Doc Rivers or they're not going to win a championship. So with that being said, it's your boy Wavy. Let me know what y'all think. Do y'all agree with me? Do y'all disagree? If you do disagree, don't just say no hating shit. Explain why you disagree, and I'm going to reply to you in the comment section. I'm out this bitch.